Welcome to Rosebud Homestead. It is a beautiful April morning up on the Colorado Plateau, and we have been hunkering down at home with the coronavirus for about a month. And so we're out here outside enjoying the great out of doors, and we have a couple of really special things to show you today. I'm standing right here in front of our apple tree. It's this morning just filled with bees. I don't know if you can hear the humming of the bees. The birds are scolding us, so it's a beautiful, beautiful morning. One of the things that all this extra time has given us, because I'm no longer commuting for 2 hours a day back and forth to work since I'm working from home, and in that extra time it's given us the opportunity to figure out and work with things that have been on our list for a really long time. And one of those things is how to cook using a rocket stove. So here is a rocket stove right here. I'm going to be demonstrating this one, and the video is going to be in two parts. The first part will be this store-bought rocket stove, and then we're going to show you how to make one out of just 4 cinder blocks. So we'll have 2 parts today, and we'll get started when we come back in just a moment. So this rocket stove is one that I bought on Amazon, and it is, I've read a lot of reviews about rocket stoves. This one is very highly recommended. Now remember, we do not get any kind of a kickback on anything that we recommend. We feel that that's not ethical, and we want to make sure that we're free to say whatever we want to about whatever products we use. So this is an EcoZoom, and the model is the Versa. And a rocket stove works on the principle of having a combustion chamber that's right here, and then it has, let me just kind of tip this off to the side so you can see down inside. It has this column where the heat rises just like a rocket fuel injection kind of a thing. And so these rocket stoves are supposed to burn very, very efficiently, and as nearly as we can tell, this one does. Now notice that this one has 2 doors. The combustion chamber is right here, and then the flame and the heat comes up here, and your pot goes here. And then this little door right here, which from our practice, it looks like I've tipped some of the ash toward, it collects the ash, and also it is an air intake. And by controlling how far open this door is, that's how you control the heat. This little piece fits right here. You need to open this door first and then put this right here. And this platform holds the wood, so the sticks stick out here, and then you can feed them in or pull them back, which also is a temperature control. So we are going to fire this up, and then I have everything set out here. I'm going to cook Jim some breakfast, and so we'll see how that does on our rocket stove. So the first thing that I'm going to do, because I am notoriously not a wonderful fire starter, so I cheat, and so these are cotton balls that have Vaseline on them, and I'm just going to drop those right down there first, and so that will help. And then this wood is just, the rocket stove works really, really well on this model. This particular model works on all kinds of biomaterial. You can use charcoal briquettes, you can use twigs and leaves, whatever you might happen to have. So this is really a great stove for having for emergency preparedness. I like to have redundancy systems. I have 5 or 6 ways that I can cook off-grid, and this is just one. And this little stove is very, very light and very small, so you can put it in a car and take it camping with you as well. But with being hunkered down with the coronavirus, it's given me pause to think quite a bit about, now what if, we've been really lucky, we still have internet connectivity, which has saved all of us, and the grocery stores are still open. We still have electricity coming to our homes. But in a different kind of emergency, we might be cut off from power. And so having some, and being familiar with some redundant ways of cooking outdoors is probably a really smart thing. Jim went up the mountain last fall and got us a lot of firewood. That's how we heat our house in the wintertime. And so this is very wormy wood. It's very light, almost like balsa wood. So it should start pretty well. So I'm just going to put some twigs in here, get things started a bit. And what the instructions on this stove say is that 3 good twigs are usually enough to get things really going. Now, another thing you do if you're going to be cooking for a long time, like if you're simmering beans or something and you're going to be doing that all day, then you can use longer sticks and you can put them in, and then by pulling them out and putting them back in, you can control the temperature as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start this, and we'll see how my fire starting abilities work today. You can also drop fuel just right down in here if the need arises too, which I think I'm going to pick a good one. And this is nice and dry and should go pretty fast. Now, while the fire is getting started, you may be wondering what kind of cookware is best for using on a rocket stove. And the answer is really you can use almost anything. I prefer to use the Dutch oven cookware because they get black on the bottom and they do very well. They hold the heat and distribute the heat around the pan very well. I don't want to use my expensive cookware on a rocket stove. When you've done your work right here, this little stove is very efficient. It produces very little smoke and very constant heat. So you may be able to see the flames kind of popping up to the top there. Hey, I think we did a pretty good job. Now I'm going to pull some of these back because I want a lower heat to start with when I start doing these eggs. So I bought this little set from Amazon, and this is I think it is maybe a 3-quart saucepan bottom, and here's the lid, but the lid also doubles as a frying pan, so it makes it very convenient. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on the top. It's already getting quite hot, and I'm going to start the eggs. Now, I have some green eggs and brown eggs right here. There's nothing like fresh eggs. Got some soot on my hands. So I'm going to start, and I know that there's lots of ways to cook scrambled eggs. I can just tell you that I don't do it the way a lot of people do it, but it works for us. And so I am putting these eggs whole into the pan, and the pan is not hot. And notice that I have also not put in any butter or anything yet, which I'm going to do in just a moment. So these are 4 small eggs. These chickens are first-time layers, and so the eggs are a little bit small, so I'm giving Jim 4 eggs. And now I'm going to break those yolks. Need the heat up just a little bit, so I'm pushing the sticks farther in, breaking up the yolks. And I intentionally started with a cool pan. And I'm going to put in about a tablespoon of butter. Now this is actually ghee, and we make this ghee from real butter. A lot of you are going to think, well, that should have gone in first, but this is just my own technique and it works fine. campfire is still going strong. All right, well, so the eggs now are starting to congeal, which is good. This reminds me so much of when I was a senior in high school. I was always such an academic, and my friends prevailed on me to join the, I think it was called the pep club or something, and we had tryouts, and I, for some reason, got it. And so for my induction, they picked me up at 5:30 in the morning and took me over to one of the male athletes' homes, and I had to fix breakfast for him, outside in his backyard over a campfire. Well, what a disaster that was, and his mother was standing right there watching the whole time. Okay, so this is to make up for that. So this is cooking breakfast in the backyard for my husband, and it's much more better. Much more better. Now, the pièce de résistance is crème fraîche. And if you don't know what crème fraîche is, I suggest you look it up online. I'm going to add, I made this last night. It's French, of course. And you stir it in just as the eggs are congealing. And it is kind of a mixture between fresh whipping cream and sour cream. It is cultured. You make it with fresh cream and a couple of tablespoons of buttermilk, and then you let it culture overnight on the counter, and it is absolutely scrumptious. And you use it in a lot of different things to give flavor and smoothness. Okay, so we're ready to plate these eggs. Which I'm going to do right now, right over here. And I just stepped over to where we have our herb garden and got some chives, and we'll just decorate this a little bit with fresh chives. And this morning early, I baked some French breakfast puffs. So here is Jim's breakfast cooked outside on the rocket stove. So we will now shut off the camera and get set up, and we'll do part 2 here in just a few minutes. We're standing outside our garage door. This is our little door for the garage, perfect for four-wheelers and lawnmowers, but not big enough for my truck. And the reason we're here is because there's a concrete platform right here, and we need to be on concrete. So as I explained at the beginning of the video, hunkering down for the coronavirus has given me time to do a lot of things that I've wanted to do for several years. It was about 4 years ago when I saw on YouTube a design for using 4 cinder blocks to make a rocket stove. And I was really intrigued, and I've been wanting to do it for 4 years. So I finally was able to do it during this past month when I had a lot more time on my hands. So you see the materials right here all spread out. I have more than 4 cinder blocks. So let me kind of talk to you about what we're going to do, and then we'll actually do it. So we learned by looking at the EcoZoom stove that there needs to be a combustion chamber and a pipe-like structure so that the flames can go upward, and it will direct all of the heat upward toward the pot. So that's what we have to reconstruct doing cinder blocks. Now, putting together the stove is very simple, but figuring out exactly the best way to do the combustion chamber is what is a little bit tricky. So I have right here a cinder block that we are going to turn into part of the combustion chamber. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. So this is what we have to do. We need to break out this wall of this cinder block so that we can have an extended room for the combustion chamber. So I want to break it out so that this is one open area right here. Now, I don't want to cut this piece out this way. Rather, I want to cut this piece out this way so I have the benefit of this extension right here. I have tried several ways to do it. Now, we don't have the right kind of a blade for any of the saws that we had. And so we're not going to the store very often at all. We weren't going to go and try to get a new power tool or anything. So knowing what physics that I know, I just figured, you know, I probably can just break it. So the first thing that I did was I took a saw blade, one of those old-fashioned saw blades, and I tried to score it right here and right here. And then using the rubber mallet, I hit it, and not only did this whole top come off, but this wall came off as well. So that was my first failure. Then my second failure was that I hit this wall too hard. And so on my third time, I hit it just right, and I produced, let me put my gloves on here. I don't like handling cinder blocks without my gloves. I produced this. Now, notice that it's not perfect, but you know what? It works. And so that's what I'm going to try to reproduce right here. Now, I'm only going to give it one try, and so if I have another failure, we'll just set the pieces aside and use this one. But know that I did this one on my third try, exactly doing the thing that I'm going to show you right now. So here we go. Now, here's what my brain tells me about how to do this. The reason that I set it on the hard concrete is so that it has a really solid base, and when I smack it, it's not going to give against the concrete. I'm also going to smack it this way instead of having it down this way and just hitting it like this, because I want the shock waves to go straight down. And because this has walls here and here, that means it's far more likely to break right through here. So keep your fingers crossed, and here we go. Now notice I don't have safety glasses on, but I do have some glasses on to protect my eyes. So here we go. Failure. So there we have it. I hit it too hard. In fact, this is, I can frankly tell you, the worst failure that I have had. So, however, we do have intact 1/2 of this, and so I've found some uses for these halves. So we'll just put this aside. I would really like to show you a success, but I don't want to go through any more. But notice that I got this one on the third time, so we'll just use this one that I got before. Now, those of you that have the right kind of saws, you can just saw through that and it would be just fine. And maybe some of you can get it to work if you score it. All right, now we're going to use 4 cinder blocks to build our stove. If I were younger, I would be building it right on the concrete, but I'm not. And so I'm using these blocks just to elevate the stove to get it up. So these do not count as part of the 4. So let me see if I can remember how to put this together. We need a floor for the combustion chamber. So I'm going to pick this one and I'm going to put it this way. So my fire is going to be built right here. So the next thing I'm going to do is then put the combustion chamber. So the combustion chamber is going to go here. Then I'm going to put this one here. Well, I built a fire down here before, but it doesn't matter which way you do this. You want it to line up as good as possible. Now, see the combustion chamber. It goes all the way through here. So it is a 1/2 brick here and a 1/2 brick here, and that makes for a nice combustion chamber. You know, I don't like this one. Well, it will probably, there's just a little drop off. It comes in here and then it drops down about an inch down to this part. So that means I'm using different manufactured bricks. Okay, that's all right. And then the last one would normally go here. If you were going to cement this together, this is how you would cement it together, because this one would span the joints right here. But I'm not going to cement this together, and notice it doesn't fit perfectly. So I'm just going to move this one over here so that I have less air leak. Okay, now we have then the combustion chamber here, and the ongoing pipe. This goes right down into the combustion chamber. And so we have mimicked exactly what the EcoZoom has done, only using cinder blocks. And we've used 4 cinder blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's up on that stand. Okay, so the same thing applies for building your fire. So, Jim, if you want to come around here, can you see down in through the combustion chamber? Can you see my hand there?
Yes, barely.
Okay, so we're going to feed wood in through here. Now, an interesting thing that I saw, notice that we don't have a little lower door to control the air intake. So what I have seen other people do is that they have taken an empty can that is this size, taken the label off, of course, and then smashed it down to where it's about half the height. And they wedge that right in there. So that gives a little bit of an air intake here, and their wood then goes on the top of that back in. Now, mine is leaky with air, so as I have practiced with this and played with it a lot, I don't need to do that, but that's one thing to think about. So I'm going to get our fire started. I'm going to put my Vaseline cotton balls and a paper towel straight down in the combustion chamber here to get it started. And then I really like these pieces that Jim broke off of wood from our wood pile today, and I'm just going to stack them right on top of that paper. They caught really fast. And I'm going to go ahead and start those, and then we'll be adding others as well. With this one, you can use larger pieces, and again, here's kind of a long one that I can pull in and out if I need to get things started. And if I'm going to be cooking all day, then I'm going to want a variety of sizes and shapes of wood. So let's get this started. We are going to use the bottom part of my Dutch oven, and all we're going to do is boil some water. Now, as I say, this one is not going to be as efficient as the other one is. It's going to smoke a little bit more. Oh, you can already see the smoke coming out. And that's all I'm going to put in there for now. We're going to let that get good and started. Now, with playing with it over the past few weeks, I've had the fire so that the flames will pop out this high. So, and that's too much. So you want to really control it before it gets that high. And then another thing that I discovered is that you can put your pot right over like this, but it works much better if you have some type of a little grill piece. just like kind of a regular stove. And I just pulled that one off of one of our little butane stoves that I've used in the kitchen before on a different video. All right, so we have our pot in place. See how our fire is doing? Okay, it's doing really well. One of the things that I'm wanting to do is figure out how to bake bread on these outdoor stoves. So I will be working on that project as well. Now I just have some plain water I'm going to dump in here, and we'll see how quickly it will get this water to boil. It's already hot. I can feel the heat. And the great thing about a rocket stove is that because the heat is focused straight up that column, it is much more efficient in heating your pot. All right, so I'm going to use my phone and start timing. And we will see how long it takes. So we're not going to do anything else. A watched pot never boils. So we'll come back when this has started to boil, and I'll let you know how much time it took. We had to fuss with the fire just a little bit. I think we've got it going pretty well now. The water is steaming. There are little bubbles forming on the bottom. We have been going for 5 minutes and 19 seconds. So I think we're just about to have boil. And the trick with these rocket stoves is, of course, to try to control the temperature. If you want to slowly simmer something, then you use a lower fire, which means you pull the sticks out. If you really want to get things boiling good, then you build a big roaring fire. We've got flames that are coming clear up to the top here. So if you want to come take a look in this pot, you can see that we're very, very close to boiling. See the little bubbles all over the bottom. Ooh, I have to stand back. It's really hot. Some of these that I have seen on YouTube, you can use more cinder blocks and even make another combustion chamber on the back side of this so that you can have a double burner going. There are some that are really quite elaborate. They're a lot of fun, really. So if you have room on your property and can get to the store to pick up cinder blocks. Now, we used cinder blocks when we were breeding queen bees and making some queen cages. So we have a lot just around our property that we still are just figuring out uses for. So a rocket stove is a really good alternative way to cook off-grid. So we'll be continuing our adventures with rocket stoves. One of the next things I want to do, as I said, is get a little oven to see if it will work on top of a rocket stove and see if we can do some baking. So we can look forward to that video coming up. And we have ideas for other videos also that have been precipitated by this month of living a lot on the food storage that we have already put away, on some of the things that we have done for emergency preparedness, which have been very, very beneficial in this very weird time that we are living through right now. So we're close enough to boiling here that we're going to call this a success. And so we're going to leave it the way it is. And thank you for joining us for this adventure with learning a little bit about rocket stoves. And we will see you with our next video. Thanks so much for joining us.